Excited. So I just want to show you this picture of cougars really fast because I think it's interesting. Our puma, our mountain lion. We can see right now that they are some kind of cat. They look like they got some big old teeth, right? And there's places where this is like a sign. So it tells me that someplace there must be cougars. Those are most afraid of us. We're the animals that hurt the most animals. Okay, just know that. So let's talk about Cougar Crossing. So I'm going to read this to you, and I'm going to take this out, this paper, because I just wanted to show you that not only is this a kid's book. Have you ever heard of the radio station NPR? That's a radio station that people, it's like a talk radio station. A lot of adults listen to it. Have you heard of NPR?
I have a clock that has a radio on it.
Yeah, well, sometimes you can listen to, it's an adult, it's like an educational kind of thing. And here's the article about the exact cougar we're going to talk about. So this is a real, well, I'm telling you the real deal, all right? But this is told like there's no limitations. Regardless of what anybody says, you are the only person who can control what you do. Like, I was kind of a goofball in school, and no one ever thought I would ever make it to be a teacher. Me too, a rock star. This book is really interesting because it's got a story, then it's got some people talking, so it kind of helps us understand it anyway. So I'm going to start with the reading, and I'll go back and see what these guys say. Born in the Santa Monica Mountains, a national park area near the city of Los Angeles, P22 faced his first big challenge at age 2. See, some animals, like we stay with our parents until we're like 18, sometimes 20, sometimes 25, but we live with our parents. A lot of wildlife move away from their families when they get to be 1 or 2 years old. So when he became 2, it was time for him to move and start his own family in his own group. But others may have already claimed every inch of these mountains, and the rumbling city bellowed below. P22 needed a way to move mountains with space to spare, but how? He says, we wildlife biologists can guess how P22 got its spot, and we know how he became a hero because we were part of it. And they tell their names. So animals, we have our houses. Now a lot of animals don't have a house, right? They live outside. And when they live outside, they have to claim their land. Because if you wouldn't want somebody just coming in your house and claiming your house, would you?
No.
So that's how their land is. So they have to find land. They don't normally just kick somebody out, another mountain lion, and say, get away, I want this land. So their job is to find their own land so they can start their own family. All right? We've got a way to help all the LA mountain lions and other critters squeeze for space like this. The best bet would be a bridge. A big, wide animal bridge, a wildlife crossing covered in trees and grass. This could connect the city's last natural spaces to move mountain ranges and open land to the north. But sadly, there's no such crossing. So they've had this great idea. Pretty innovative, right? Have you ever thought of a bridge just for animals?
Mm-hmm.
So we had a bridge for animals. We have bridges, but we cover bridges usually with like cars go over them. So they're made out of what? Concrete, gravel, something. They're saying though we should make a bridge that animals could cross. So that would be. Think of the summer when it's hot. It's hot to walk. Their feet would be hot. Their paws. So they say let's make a bridge maybe that we could cover with plants, like natural bridge, so it would look just like grass.
Grease.
So that's pretty innovative. That's pretty good thinking, isn't it? Have you ever been innovative? Have you ever thought of something that's pretty cool, like no one else has ever thought of? Yeah. I got an inventor. That's what it's kind of like. I always think I have inventions. I think I'm going to be a millionaire when I come up with an invention. I never do anything with them, but I'm thinking. So P22 headed to the city. So here he is. He's trying to find his own land. He's moved away from home. And even for animals, when they move away from their mother and father, it's still a different change in the way they live. Because their parents and families help them get food and everything else. Now he's got to survive all by himself, and his role is to find family. Like a tourist, he strolled past Beverly Hills mansions and Hollywood hotspots. The mansions in Beverly Hills where all the rich movie stars live. Then he hit the next big challenge, a huge freeway packed with non-stop speeding cars and trucks. So think about it, like Highway 55 or Highway 44 or Highway 70. You know what I'm talking about, the highways? And we have like 5 lanes on one side and 5 lanes on the other. It's a big old highway. Wait till you hear this. Just listen to this. Oh man, we lost too many LA Cougars to car crashes, more every year. So not only do they get hit, they also cause crashes because people are dodging from them. So he's trying to get across the highway. By some miracle, P22 made it across 2 major freeways, surviving, ready for it, 20 lanes in LA's legendary traffic. So kind of a joke when you're in a lot of traffic, people say, oh, we're in Los Angeles traffic, because it's the most trafficy city in the world. Just cars, not all the time. Like to get from here to the Arch would take an hour because traffic moves so slow. But somehow or another, this guy, I don't care about her, stay with me. They got across all this traffic. That's amazing, isn't it? So that's a miracle in itself. He found himself in a green, hilly place with no other cougars sent around. He couldn't go back, he couldn't go forward. So he was kind of stuck. He didn't want to cross the highways again. There was no land past him. So he figured, well, I guess this has got to be it, right? Swipe. He claimed his spot there. So in cougars, what they do is take your hands and scratch, like you're scratching. If you were scratching the ground, that's what they do. They scratch the ground. They put their, what do they have on there? I have fingernails. Claws, yeah. So they dig claws in the ground. And then another cougar comes, they see those claws, and they're like, oh, somebody's got this land. That's an inherited behavior. That's something that they know to do. No one, their mom didn't say, hey, don't forget to scratch when you find your place. Something they just know, because animals have inherited behaviors.
Wait, so he's a baby.
He's 2.
2 animal years.
Just 2 years. But he's a baby to us, because a 2-year-old's a baby, and a 2-year-old's not a baby in a cougar's life. Isn't that crazy? They grow up when you're 2. Can you imagine if you had to go out all yourself when you were 2, by yourself? Your parents said,
that happened?
Your mama said, adios, and you go, see you later.
There would not be 75 billion people.
You're probably right. There would not be that many people, because a lot of people wouldn't make it. So, Griffith Park was a puny pad for a puma. You know what puny means? Puny is a word for small. It's puny. It's little, tiny. Puny is a word, we don't hear that word too much anymore, but if you say something's really puny, I could say that's a puny, an ant's puny. So, when they say that Griffith Park is where he lives is puny, it means it's a small space. Some 17 times smaller than a typical territory. But he had to do it. He had nowhere else to go. So it was like, this is the best he could get. So he lived in a tiny little area, nowhere else to go. I jumped when I saw him on the remote camera. A mountain lion in our city park? For real? We had to get that crazy cat into our National Park Service cougar study. So there's people that were studying cougars. So now they got to think about, how in the world are they going to figure out? They got a problem to solve. They want to find out what this cougar's doing. And you know what? Believe it or not, a lot of cougars look alike. So they got to figure out a way to mark this cougar so they know who he is. All right? What's his name again?
P22.
Uh-oh, that's a hint. So let's see what they do. One night, P22 caught a scent of humans. He heard a rustle in the brush and whipped his head around for a look. Too late. He felt a sharp pin in his back end. Now, did they kill him? No.
He tranquilized him.
You're right, they tranquilized. That's awesome. So tranquilized, they gave him to put him to sleep for a while. And they do that like when you have surgery or whatever. Are we up back there? Are you okay? You feeling okay? All right. So, it took me 3 weeks to find our ghost cat. Then we gave him a nice nap, a checkup, and a tag, and a trekking collar. And don't forget a name, P22, because he was the 22nd puma that they tagged. So they've been looking for over a long period of time, they actually were able to tag 22. So I'm thinking, this is a pretty efficient idea, right? This is pretty good thinking. If they don't want to hurt him. The tranquilizer doesn't hurt him, his medicine's going to wear off. But they can put a tag on him now, they can follow him because they can see the tag on him. See the collar on his neck?
What if he scratches the thing off?
They don't let, they have that, because they've invented something that he can't do that.
Like steel?
I don't know what it's made of, that'd be a good question, but it's something that he can't do that. But that's a really good thought, because you know what? I'm sure when they were making this up, they had to think of that. They thought of everything, that's what they do, at least everything, to do the best they could. Sometimes P22 scratched markings in the dirt and planted his scent to attract a mate. So nobody likes to be alone. Cougars don't like to be alone either. So he's trying to put his scratch back. That scratching those claws just so a female would look for him. But his signals were met with silence. Poor guy, his territory was too small to even get a girlfriend or a mate. And he couldn't move him out. Wild bait cougars rarely survive in relocation. So, oh man, they got another problem. So this cougar found his place where to live, but they can't move him. Because if they move him, you can't move animals. That's once they set their territory, they're pretty much there. So there's another problem they're going to deal with. How are they going to keep this pet dog alive? They don't want him to die. Because what happens if too many animals die? What's that word?
That's not gonna
They go extinct.
You're awesome. They go extinct. And we don't want any animals to become extinct because everyone is important. So they're worried about this and they don't want to chase them out. One day, after eating some small prey in the park, Pete 22 started to feel really sick. His skin burned and he itched. His hair dropped off in clumps. His eyes nearly swelled shut. What was happening? You know what? People had put rodent poison. You know what a rodent is?
Oh.
Rodent poison. So people decided to poison some animals. See, when you put poison down, like if you have mice or something, you put poison down. Well, people eat those, animals eat those other animals, and you hurt a lot of things. So that's why it's probably not ever good to do that. So what happened was, he ate, because he was hard finding food, he ate whatever he could. He had to eat something that was poisoned. So he nearly died. So in here, this is a really good thing to think about, is how the scientists could improve getting rid of rodents and things if they wanted to get rid of them. So keep going here. Feeling better, many months later, P22 wandered into a neighborhood near a park. He discovered a cozy spot, calm and quiet, dark and dry, and settled down for a snooze.
It's a man.
Guess what he got?
Probably a baby.
This is going to be a big one coming up. When he woke up, loud voices and bright lights. A media circus. We told them to clear the crowds and give P22 more space to exit, but nobody would build a bridge.
Wow.
So sometimes people don't really care as much about animals as they should. We tend to take, you ever seen somebody like walk by a tree and skin the leaves off it? I think, man, I don't want to be pulling my hair like, ugh, We just forget sometimes. Sometimes people see an ant outside, step on it just for fun. Gotta really be cognizant and really think about why we're doing it.
You step on it, and just like you pull their arm off, their arm just like roll right back to them.
The only way it's going to stop is if you stop it. And if everybody thinks like you do, then that's the way it stops. So anyway, after most of the hairy humans finally headed home, P22 sank back into the night. He'd just lie low inside the park territory and try to avoid any big challenges for a while. Meanwhile, P22 was becoming world famous. Finally, more folks were learning about cougars and supporting the wildlife crossing. So all of a sudden people are like knowing about this cougar. People were writing about him, like lots of people, and they were like, hey, we need to do something. Because there are people that really do care about animals like you and I do. And there are people that don't. However, guess what? One spot inside the park enticed P22 with his mighty sounds and scents. Strange sounds and scrumptious scents to prey he'd never heard or smelled before. And then the T22 ate one of the LA Zoo's koala bears. Would all the fans freak out? Well, you know what? They didn't. Because people thought more creatively than that. Because people realized that poor P22 had no food. And if we would have given him space to have food, then we could be mad at him. But if you're really hungry, if you were starving and hadn't eaten in days, and I had a Big Mac sitting right there, what would you do?
Eat it.
Yeah, he wouldn't think twice about it. So P22 was starving. He had no food, he was skinny, he had been sick. When he saw something, because that's instinctive again, that's the food chain. He ate something that he could eat. So the people said, you know what, we need to help this guy. We don't want him to eat our koala bears, we want to help him, and not only him, but other animals. P22 continued to avoid humans at all costs, as cougars do. Even on the day Griffith Park hosted flocks of his fans, he was probably sleeping in the other side of the park. Oh, the P22 Day Festival on October 22nd named our Cool Cat Day by the City of Los Angeles. So much support for the city wildlife and the crossing. So because of him, people following him, people paid attention. P22 paces, perhaps more slowly than he used to. Late in the lifespan, he likely won't be living long enough to see the completed crossing. But thanks to him, it will be built to save his cougar cousins and other wildlife. Hollywood celebrity Cougar will forever be here, a hero in the city, animals everywhere. He spotlighted a message to us all. So guess what they're doing right now? They're building a bridge. We must build bridges to live in harmony with nature, for real. Thanks, P22, for the future. You did this, buddy. You did it for all of us. So here's this cougar. It's kind of hard to think about it, isn't it? So he saved life. So I just want to show you one other thing. And I'll talk to you in 1 second. I want to hear what you have to say. It's important, I know. So when I thought about this, about bridges, I thought, okay, you know, so I'm thinking about STEM, right? So really, we talked a lot about STEM ideas. You don't even know we did, but we did. You talked about coming up with new ideas, making changes, thinking out of the box, all that stuff. But then, when you think about this book, you would say this book would be mostly a science book, right? You would think that, but it really does. If you build a bridge, you're really into architecture and engineering. So how do you build a bridge? So this is another book that tells you exactly what to do to build a bridge. And even starting with little toys. So you could start building things when you're little. But the question is, there's more to it. You know, when you cross a bridge, have you ever driven over to Illinois? You ever crossed one of those bridges? And then walk, Kansas City, to go over a lake or a bridge or a river or something, not a lake, a river. Somebody figured out how to build that. That would have been an engineer. And they had to do lots of trial and errors. Yes?
It's a river, but it's one downtown.
There's lots of bridges. But see, that's another thing that we do. So, but they had to figure out a way to build a bridge, but it wasn't over water. It was over 22 lanes of highway. Think about 22 lanes of highway. That's big. And how they're going to make it stand up. What are they going to do? So that's Cougar Crossing. You like the book? So P22 is a pretty cool guy. And I don't even know, they don't even know if he's alive right now.
He's probably not.
He might not be, I don't know, but that, you know, I don't really know, and I should have looked this up for you, and I didn't, what the lifespan of a cougar is. You know, human lifespan is really long. Not many animals, turtles are a little bit longer than ours, and but so our lifespan, I don't know what a cougar's span is, So what does this book make you think about? What does it think about? I want you to think about you in this book, what it makes you think about. That's a tough question. Yes?
I feel like P22, he's kind of like human type, but like we are different animals. But like, I was thinking about how he had put his claws in the ground. It's like, and then people want his house, but they know that when they see the claws, they know that he lives there. So it's like us, when we buy a house, and people want to live in our house, but we already got it, so they got to go look for a new house.
So you see the connection of animal shelter and your shelter. Now I want you to go farther than that. I want you to think about you and not about P22. What is this book when you hear it? So did you see how you were making connections? You made that connection exactly about you, and we talked a little bit about it, but you made it a lot deeper. So this book made you think about connections of science and you. Did it make any other connections for you, or anything else happen?
It made me feel like he came
God sent him down, and he came and sent people a message for people to like animals and not hurt them.
So you give me a list of things. So there was a lot of trial and error here. They're gonna let them do this, they're gonna do this, this. So there was multiple solutions, right? Could there be another solution besides building a bridge? Maybe. Maybe you could think of a better solution. So you're thinking. You saw the problems in the book?
Mm-hmm.
You were able to think about those problems. And then maybe in your mind when I was reading, sometimes you jump ahead and think, oh, I know what I would do. You ever had that kind of feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I know what I would do. So that's why this book is considered a STEM book, along with the science book. It puts you into being a thinker. Okay? You want to read one more book?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah,
Dad?
go ahead.
You don't have to.
Yeah,
You want to? One book? It's a little one. This is one of my all-time favorites. You ever heard of Wangari?
No.
You don't know about Wangari?
No.
Wangari lived in Kenya. You know where Kenya is?
Africa.
You're right. So when Gary lived in Africa, can you guess what color her skin was?
Brown.
It's brown. Show you. And
I thought it was pretty.
brown, black. But I don't think. When you look at people's skin, I think you guys. I see caramel. I see mocha. I see all different colors. See what's brown? Beautiful skin. When I was a kid, I used to sit out in the sun trying to get my skin dark like that. Anyway, Wangari, so she's not black, she's brown, right? She's African. What?
Oh, it's an animal.
No, this is a person. So, you know what she does? She saved the whole country.
Oh, right. There's a hero story.
But you know what? You guys didn't even know who she was. Because sometimes people do great things and they're not really that famous. She's pretty famous, but not famous enough for you to know. But now you'll know if you hear Wangari. You know, one of the things I love about this book is by someone named Jeanette Winter. I like her books. This is a kind of dress. If you look up what people wear in Kenya, pardon?
A culture dress.
Yeah, that's what she. This book is very authentic. Do you know what authentic means? It's real. It's no playing. Yes.
That thing on her head, I think that's called kashiki.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I didn't know what that's called, but I'm glad you did. Thank you, because you taught me something today. So here I'm going to read to you, and it starts with, says, the earth was naked. For me, the mission was to try to cover it with green. So that tells you a little about Wangari right there. She wanted to help save the earth. So.
She's the person who gave us grass?
No, she didn't give us grass, because you know what? Grass is something that the sun gives us. Right? I mean, we don't. So that's right. Wangari lived under an umbrella of green trees in the shadows of Mount Kenya in Africa. She watched the birds in the forest where she and her mother go to gather firewood for cooking. Do you guys have to do you have to get firewood to cook at home tonight? No. In Kenya they did.
Well, hang on. What'd you say? From what?
She has to go find wood, twigs outside in order to light a fire so they could cook.
No.
So, sometimes we forget about how lucky we are here. So let me keep reading. That's the truth. And she helped harvest the sweet potato, sugarcane, and maize from the rich soil. She was so smart. Wangari shines in school. And when she grows tall, like the trees in the forest, she wins a scholarship. She goes to Americas. Okay? She comes, because that's, we know that America's got a lot of schools and universities, and it's a good place that people can get educated. So in Kenya, they didn't have those kind of schools. So she got to come to America. And she loved being in America, but she wanted to go home, right? People like to go home. So 6 years later, when she was done studying, Wangari returned to her Kenya home, and she sees a change. What has happened? She wonders. Where are the trees? Wangari sees women bent over, hauling, look at these women, firewood from miles and miles from home, not just down a block. She sees barren land, you know what barren means? Kind of like naked, where no crops grow. And where are the birds? Where do you think the birds went?
They call it, different term migrated.
Yeah, you got no trees, you got no birds.
Habitable place.
Yeah, more habitable, I love that, more habitable place, exactly. Thousands of trees have been cut down to make room for buildings. But no one planted more trees to take their place. With all of Kenya becoming, was it all becoming a desert, she wondered? And she had lots of tears. When Gary thinks about the barren land, she has an idea. I can begin to replace some of the lost trees here in my own backyard, one tree at a time. She starts by planting 9 seedlings, 9. Now just think about 9. That's all right. You have a small everything. Watching the seedlings take root gives Wangari the idea to plant more. To start a farm for baby trees, a nursery, in an open space, she plants row after row of tiny trees. So she started with lots of trees. She went away, came back, there's no trees. She planted 9, and as they grew, she says, you know what, I can plant more, and I can plant more. But you know what, do you think she can be the only person planting? No. So she convinces village women that planting trees is a good thing. She gives each one a seedling. Our lives will be better when we have trees again. You'll see. We are planting seeds of hope. Unless this is crazy, listen to this. The women spread out over the village, planting tiny trees in long rows, like a green belt stretching over the land. Yeah. She's got all the women do it. Notice there's no men, right? Just women. There's a reason for that. The government laughed. Women can't do this, they say. It takes trained foresters to plant trees, men. The women ignore the laughter and keep planting. When Gary pays them a small amount for each seedling still living after 3 months, the very first earnings over. Ever. First time they ever got paid. First time women ever got paid in Kenya. Because the men did the work and the women didn't get to. Because they said the women couldn't do it. Now, could women do the same work as men?
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Good morning, and pardon this interruption. Teachers, if you have not entered in your attendance, can you please do so at this time? Thank you.
So, first time they ever got paid, they were grown ladies. They were grown-ups. They never got paid before. Because people didn't think they could do anything. Because they were women. How dumb is that? Word travels like wind rustling through the leaves about the green returning to Wangari's village. Soon, other women in other villages and towns and cities in Kenya are planting rows and rows of seedlings too. So it didn't just stop there. It caught on. It got bigger and bigger. Because as the people were coming in to cut down, to build stuff, and take away their native land, more people said, well, we don't want this to happen. But they still kept cutting. They're planting cutting. It was sort of like, the more you plant, the more we cut. Wangari stands tall as an oak to protect the old trees still remaining. We need a park more than we need an office building. What do you think they say?
No.
Oh yeah, okay, we'll give you your park. You know what they do? The government disagree. Wangari blocks her way, so they hit her with clubs. They beat her. They call her a troublemaker and they put her in jail. She wanted to save trees. Because we know that we have to have trees to live, right?
That
The whole
oxygen.
Oxygen, photosynthesis, all that stuff.
Paper.
Yeah, so, and you know what? She still stands tall. Right is right, even if you're alone. What a lesson is that? When Gar says, I'm going to do the right thing, even if none of my friends want me to. I'm not going to give up. This is right. Pretty powerful, Wangari. Somebody you never even heard of. You'll never forget her now, I guarantee it. But Wangari is not alone. Talk of the tree spread all over Africa, like ripples in Lake Victoria. More women hear the talk and plant even more seedlings in longer and longer rows. The seedlings take root and grow tall until there are over 30 million trees where there were none. Now think about how many people had to plant trees. So they came up with a pretty effective way of doing this, didn't they? Pretty powerful. The umbrella of green in Kenya returned. Women walk tall. Their backs are straight again because they don't have to carry firewood so far. So they're not hurt. For now, they can gather firewood close to home. You could lug things for miles.
Is this the
You know.
trees?
Wait, how would they get into firewood?
Well, the twigs fall and everything else.
Oh, yeah,
Little pieces crumble and things. The land is no longer barren. Sweet potato, sugarcane, and maize grow again in the rich red earth. The whole world hears of Wangari's trees and her army of women who planted them. So she kind of got a little famous.
You got it.
And if you were to climb to the very top of Mount Kenya today, you would see the millions of trees growing below you and the green that Wangari brought back to Kenya. So again, this is another that makes you think about what? Tell me about Wangari. Would you want to be Wangari's friend? Yeah. She'd be awesome, wouldn't she? She wants to do what's right. And I think her lesson's really important. What you can do is you can go and look at YouTube and look up Wangari. You can see a video of her talking. You can see lots of stuff. She did pass away a few years ago, but she did win a big prize, a big award, the Nobel Prize. All right, that's it. Thanks for letting me play.
All right, thank you, Carrie.
Thank you. Any questions?